because you guys love that accent. Try going to Montreal in like French Canada, and they're like, oh my god, you're an asshole. But I was actually recording Sebastian the same day as I had to go in for a quick hour and do this last deadline recording for, I think, the second season of Italia. And because I had been doing Sebastian's voice all day, it wasn't very easy to just slam that off into the next session and be like, hello, how is everyone doing? You know, it just really, I couldn't find it. I kept slipping back into this weird hybrid of English and whatever the hell else was going on inside my head that day. And Scott Sager, the show's director, that particular season's director, was like, what's wrong with you? We have an hour to do this, and we have a deadline. We can't reschedule. Come on, get with it. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I can't produce the voice today. Actor's nightmare. I just so happened to see a blue Snuggie on the floor, which I think either Caitlin Glass or Leah Clark, two voice actresses I work with extensively, had left because they get cold in the booth. And I saw it, and I just decided to be very, very silly, because there's a glass wall between where I'm recording and where the director and the engineer are directing and engineering. So they can see me, and I know if I put this on, I'd at least diffuse the tension by looking like an ass. Because everyone looks like an ass in a Snuggie. It's impossible, especially when you're grown and you're like, no, look, I look like I'm wearing pajamas. Lazy pajamas, and it's the middle of the day. So I put this on. I'm like, Scott, I'm gonna put this blue Snuggie on, because I'm getting kind of a Frosty the Snowman magic top hat vibe from this thing. And I put it on, and somehow, as if by magic, the accents came out, and I'm like, oh, Sally, these, I just have to put something blue on. And after that, Scott Sager, son of a bitch that he is, put it in my contract that I had to wear that Snuggie every time. I don't know if I should tell this story, but I feel I should. But let's just say there's Italia on the way, more Italia on the way. I may or may not have already recorded on some of it. And the Snuggie story that I just told you, I told at a panel that I was actually on with the show's original creator, who was having everything coming out of my mouth translated to him through his interpreter. So he heard the Snuggie story and thought it was hysterical. Fast forward 2-3 years and recording, maybe, the latest stuff of Italia a few months ago, I may or may not have come across a scene in which France was wearing a Snuggie. I'm like, oh my god, yes. Maybe, just saying maybe. I can neither confirm nor deny. But yes, I do indeed have to wear the blue Snuggie every time. And even when there was a gap of about a year before when we weren't recording it, I came back and the blue Snuggie came out of the vault. Here's Tatum's blue Snuggie. Caitlin Glass and Leah Clark refuse to wear it anymore. They're like, it smells like Tatum and shame. No, it's just mine. It's the Funimation blue Snuggie. Thank you very much. You, yes, Attack on Titan, you got a question. The most challenging role I've ever had to do, they all have their own challenges, and they're all, besiege you in different ways, but without a doubt, I think the most difficult time, the most emotional I've ever gotten over a show was Steins Gate and playing Open Bay. For those of you that have not seen it, I'm going to plug it for a few moments here because it's absolutely one of the best things I've ever gotten to work on. I know I said earlier I don't like to play the favorites game, but under protest, if I had like a gun on me and someone's like, pick a favorite, it would have to be Steins Gate because of the experience I had while working on it. Now Steins Gate, for those of you that don't know, is a show that deals rather beautifully and realistically with time travel and the potential it has to really mess up your mind. And the main character just happens to be a lot like me in some ways. He's a little over the top, he likes to play pretend, he's a bit of a Don Quixote in a way, and all of his friends kind of keep him around because he's just the sort of friend, we all know them, that we like to watch wear themselves out, right? And basically these kids discover how to send text messages back in time, and when they do, it starts changing the present in at first very comical ways, but about halfway through the show gets phenomenally dark. Like it gets very real and gets very raw, and it's just an emotional roller coaster from that point on to the very end, and it's just one of the most rewarding experiences. Well, the show was given to me to work on as a lead adaptive writer months before we were auditioning for it. And myself and Patrick Seitz, the writer I work with most often, who you probably know as Germany from Italia, very dear friend of mine, also a sublime adaptive writer. I love working with Patrick because he's got the same diseased sense of humor that I have. He has the same élan for literature and for just peppering his adaptive writing with quotes from the masters. So it's a lot of fun to work with him, and Steins Gate seemed like a show that was tailor-made for our particular skill set as adaptive writers. So Patrick and I would sit and talk about what we were going to do with this given scene or this given character's, adaptive scripts, whatever, and it was really an intense and creative and wonderfully organic experience. And the whole time I'm just having fun with Okabe, just filling his mouth with the most implausible dialogue and the most winding linguistic labyrinths, because he's that kind of kid to get away with it. So I am having a field day, all the while thinking to myself, I do not envy the poor bastard that has to bring this to life in the booth. It's me? Shit. So I got cast as Okabe a few months later, which I didn't know, and when we started doing it, I'm like, oh my god, now there's a period, the way we have to record in the States, there's a great deal of overlap between the writing process and the recording process. And because Okabe is such a chatty Cathy, he never shuts up, and almost every single scene of the show is through his particular perspective, and there's a very good reason for that, which I won't give away. So he's talking non-stop, and it's not a very huge cast. There's only about 8 or 9 characters in it that are recurring, and it's mostly just him talking and going through all these experiences. So I would record for about 8 hours a day, every day, and then come home and have to work on a script for the same show for another 5 or 6 hours. Eat, sleep, rinse, repeat cycle. And so I never got away from this character for the about 5 or 6 months we worked on the show. And it was devastating, because after a while I just didn't remember Micheal anymore. Micheal was gone. I'm like, oh my god, what happens? And there's a scene in episode 13, I think, where, again, I don't want to give too much away because the show hinges so much on the element of surprise, but there is a really desperate, heartrending moment where he is having to essentially plead for the life of his friend at peril to his own. And it's the first time as an audience we really begin to see him as a real human being. Up until that point, he's been a very loud, obnoxious, over-the-top, comedic character in some respects, but when the show takes that very dark turn halfway through, everything that he's used to get by in life, this coping mechanism, this let's pretend attitude, this arrogance that he has, no longer works, and he's forced to just strip all that away and just be real. And it's devastating to watch because it's so humbling. And there's this wonderful scene, and in writing the adaptive script for that particular scene, I was like, oh my god, I had a tear in my eye writing the scene, and then a couple of months later we actually got to record the scene, and I was dreading it because I thought, I don't know if I've got the chops as an actor to pull this off, because he's just so emotional in this moment and so real, and it's such a turn. By that time, I think we've been recording and writing, the overlap had been profound for so many weeks that by the time I did it, I was just lost, and I got lost in the character, and that very tenuous line between Micheal and Okabe completely disappeared in that scene, and I had a mental breakdown and started crying, and it got very, very uncomfortably real for everybody in the session. And my director, the lovely Colleen Plinkenbeard, oh, it's you, now you're on that side. Oh my god, you're like a weeping angel, stop it. That's not creepy at all. I want to see you look at me through a third-story window. That would be amazing. But well done, well done. So I'm in the booth and I have a mental breakdown, as you do, and my director was like, why don't you back off a little bit and maybe just go splash some water on your face and, just walk around the studio for a little bit, maybe find Micheal again, because it's a little scary. And so I did, and I came back in the booth dreading a second take of that scene, and Colleen was like, oh no darling, we don't have to do that again actually. If you're okay with it, we're just going to use your middle breakdown and use that in the final edit. I'm like, let's see, humiliation of the entire world knowing what I sound like when I actually cry versus having to do this again. Let's go with option A. So if any of you are interested in hearing J. Michael Tatum have a severe emotional breakdown in the booth, watch episode 13 of Steins Gate. That's a royal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, you holding up the poor dog. If I could send any D-mail, okay, that's those of you that didn't know Steins Gate, that's what they call mail us text messages that go back in time. D-mail, clever, right? Watch the show. I would have texted myself a message not to wear black today. Yeah. And then I would probably show up in something and it would ring. I don't know. What would you say? Do you have something? No? It's hard. When you watch that show, you don't want to send emails anymore. You're like, let's not do it. Let's not do it. Things change. The world becomes horrible. No. So, no D-mail. No D-mail. no Gmail. So I told myself maybe lay off all the inverted clauses I gave Okame because they're really hard to do in a booth. You standing up over there. Yes, you. What's my opinion on what? He's a scary clown, evil, and it frightens me, and I want him to die. Oh, shit. Well done, though. That's a great cosplay. I love the character of Russell. I think it's a very creepy creation, but I'm actually phobic of clowns, so... Yeah. I mean, I'm not as bad as I used to be. I don't have the sickening urge to kill you or run away. Now I'm just going, oh, yep, that's not bad, not bad. By the way, let me give you some advice, all of it. If you have some deep-seated fear, some phobia that really just makes you unhinged when presented with it, don't tell anyone, for God's sakes. I wish I could go back in time and I would send a email telling myself to tell everyone I was afraid of wads of cash. Everyone's like, oh, you're afraid of clowns? Huh? Why? People just like poke and poke and poke and poke and poke. It's very silly to be scared of clowns though, but clowns are scary, damn it. Let's see. I think one of the twins from Moron. Oh, both of them. Crap. Hello. Hi. What? You have to speak up, dear. I still couldn't hear you. I'm so sorry. Can you sign it out? No? Oh, like Blood Brothers, yes. I love Jiro. Jiro's actually very close to my heart because that was my first ever lead role. And he was, I kind of liked it. I really loved his hat. I love the relationship he had to his little brother. The little scene in the coffin where, little brother's like, wake up, brother, wake up! You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm like, it's a vampire family comedy. Yeah. I like it. I love it. I love Black Brothers. You. Thank you. Okay, so she just asked me about my role as Inaru in One Piece, which is a very big, deep, ridiculous voice, and he's like the ultimate douchebag. He's just such a hello, I'm going to kill everything with lightning because I can. Why not? And when I was first finding that voice, I used to do this thing with Mike McFarlane, the show's director. We would go to drive-thrus near the studio and order at the drive-thru window in Inaru's voice. But, so your question was, what's the best reaction I've ever gotten? I never got a reaction. I mean, once or twice I've been recognized. People are like, oh my God, you're J. Michael Tatum. I'm like, oh, yay, yay, hi. They never get my order wrong when you order as Inaru, I can tell you that much, because it's terrifying. Like, yes, I would like a number 6 with curly fries and an Oreo cookie shake. Would there be anything else? Yeah. No, I'm good. I drive around, and all you have to say, anyone that works anywhere within 5 miles of the studio, or any studio for that matter, is used to this kind of thing happening, because we're actors and we're kind of jerks, and we like to prank people and do voices like the thing in Oklahoma. I'm like, hello dear, how are you? You got me in trouble with Deborah, or Jennifer and her friend Deborah. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So anyone that works, any sort of, public service in anywhere near the studio hates their lives and are very used to us doing this. So we drive through, I could go through naked on the back of a rhinoceros, and I don't think I would get much of a reaction. Like, oh, you must be an actor. Hi, here's your ultimate cheeseburger. Have fun. So yeah, no one's ever really reacted to it. It's really funny when you do that voice anywhere, and I've done it in drive-thrus mostly, but occasionally I'll actually do it at a sit-down restaurant where I was like, hello, thank you, I'd like a Coke, please. And they look at you, but the waitstaff tries so hard to not be like, is that your real voice? Because they don't want to take a chance on that it is your real voice and suddenly you're insulted. So it's really funny just watching people desperately try to hold it together because they're conflicted. They're like, I don't know that that's his real voice. I want to say something, but another thing I love to do to try to unhinge waitstaff is to cry eat. Do you know what that is? Cry eating? Anyone? Anyone cry eats? Oh my God, please, I want all of you to cry eat at some point over the weekend. It's an important social institution. We do it all the time there. The trick is to go to a restaurant. If it's a nice restaurant, that's even better. And just start out wonderfully. When your food comes, start crying while you eat it. Like you hate yourself for what you're eating, but you can't stop. And I mean ugly cry. None of this single tear, Demi Moore and Ghost kind of thing. I mean, you were like that. because the waitstaff, and then when the waitstaff comes over, you just like snap out of it. They're like, oh yeah, more breadsticks would be great, thank you. And they walk away. It really messes with them. And we have contests, some of us actors that would do this, we're like, see how we could just cry it together. The only thing better than cry eating by yourself in a restaurant while you eat is cry eating with 2 or 3 other people who are all doing it with you. It looks weird. It really does. People are like, what? There's a story here, but no one wants to know what it is. I was at a con recently. It was actually the same con I was talking about earlier, where I went around the hotel the day after and did Sebastian's voice and got in trouble for it. They had taken us out to this nice pub, and the whole convention was there. Like much of the staff, all the guests, and the planners and stuff, and we were having this lovely time. And I decided to tell them all about the trick of cry eating. This would be a great time to do it. So I had the entire table of like 20 people cry eating. You remember this? He was there. He was actually really cry eating though, because he hadn't had like sweet potato fries in a year. And he's like, oh my god. So his was real. His was absolutely real. It was gorgeous. But the con chair's mother, this wonderful woman who I really bonded with over the weekend, out cry ate all of us, and it was frightening. She was like, ah! And we were all like, oh my god, please stop. No, I can't! It was hysterical. We're like, winner. No one will ever best you in cry eating. So yeah. This is what I do. I'm an adult, really? I'm an adult. I don't know how I made it, but I'm here. Yes, you, John. Oh god, more shit to read. It's hard to read! What do you got? Who inspires Sebastian's voice? Oh, cool. Okay, I'll tell that after I read. You all have such lovely handwriting. I look like I write things with my feet. I really do. I'm like, but this is lovely. The penmanship is gorgeous. Oh, you told me the first phrase, and I was like, oh, and this, okay. A phantom high bottle will count to this much isn't worth his salt. It's so weird when actual British people get bent out of shape with that voice. That's your voice! I feel judged. You're like, oh, I mean, it's really validating to hear British people go, oh my god, do the Sebastian voice. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's awesome though. Now, true story, I'll hand this back to you, or if you want it, do you want it? It's paper, you might be able to use it. Thank you. He wants to kill me. The true story about Sebastian's voice is, it's kind of a valentine to my speech therapist when I was a little boy. True story, when I was very, very young, I almost spoke not at all because I had such a debilitating speech impediment, and it was very hard on me. So one of the reasons I found drama in the first place is because we found that if I had a script to read from, or a poem to recite, or a performance to give, that the setter tended to be subsumed by that. And so I literally fell in love with acting because it made me find my voice. But my very first, and this is true, my very first speech therapist was this lovely, like, 1,000-year-old lady, and she was British. With this wonderful British voice, everything was so clear and crisp and beautiful, and she'd say, you know, the rain in Spain falls mainly in the plains. She had a little tin of candies that she'd give you one if you did well. It was really, really cool. And she was like 1,000 years old, and she had like, you know, a big bun of gray hair that accounted for a full foot of her height. And her name was actually Mrs. Britt. Not kidding. So she was like quintessentially British. I think she was like Mary Poppins. Cross between Mary Poppins and Gandalf. So in a way, my doing the British voice, I fall into that accent very easily for someone that was born in the States, because this little British woman was how I learned to speak, really. So even though I'm from Texas, where everyone kind of sounds like, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Welcome. Would you like some steak and maybe a hat? You know, everyone in my family sounds like they're from Texas, but I'm like the neutral tone, like what they call the mid-Atlantic accent. It's very easy to. Hello, how are you? Shiny beads? Shiny beads? Yeah. I owe my accent to a little British lady. Thank you, Britain. You saved my voice. You with the fan. The fan with the fan. Wait, I can't hear you at all. I'm so sorry. What you actually asking? Make sure I'm understanding correctly. Like you're saying, like cosplay, like would I cosplay as in my characters? We're revisiting this. I don't know who I look like. I don't know if I can get away with anymore.